谢谢.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to Thotter's Debate Night. Tonight we have some old faces actually, some from an old server, such as Daddy, and we have Nicolo, and we have T, who are going to be participating tonight. So, without further ado, let's get into the first question. What is your criteria for someone to be in your collective? Who would like to start
I only
off?
accept gay Nazis.
Ethnicity.
Well, there you go. Ethnicity.
That's
Only gay black Nazis. That's my end.
Literally ethnicity.
Yeah, so they have to be white, they have to be Christian.
Wait. I forgot transgender.
Okay, so we have a few propositions put forward. I'm going to give a serious one and say that for somebody to be in my collective, it simply has to be people that are furthering the achievement of my objective, whatever it might be. So it doesn't really matter what color or creed they are. Well, creed would would be a factor to an extent, but
Isn't that a cult though?
No, I wouldn't say it's a cult because cult is very specific in how you must live your life and what truths you must hold.
You said your objectives.
Yeah, but my objectives could be something
You're like a lightweight cult then.
Well, it would be... So, for instance, if my objective is simply to live a life where I'm not infringing on anybody else's rights that we've collectively agreed upon, and I want other people to participate in that system and keep that and sustain that system, then anybody who would say adopt classical liberalism as their culture or as their ideology would be part of my collective. Would anybody like to expand upon that?
On a serious note, my criteria for someone being in my collective is just take a look at my tags: anarchist, aristocrat, autocrat, dictator, ethno-nat, environmentalist, isolationist. Third position, Hindu, pagan. Yeah.
You just said everything is hypocritical. That means you're a troll.
No.
You said you're an autocratic anarchist?
This is just because we don't have an accelerationist tag.
Okay, well, take away the anarchist. It's like me saying I'm a communist because of the accelerationism.
Well, I have an anarchist mindset. So, like, here's the thing. My criteria, you gotta be... And when I say collective, I don't just mean you're my friend. I mean, like, you're my brother. You gotta be a revolutionary. You can't be a reformist and be in my collective.
Well, I think when we're talking about collectives, it depends what type of collective we're talking about. Like, when it comes to me, I have the pool that I play with, which is my ethnicity, meaning everyone outside of my ethnicity, I don't care. They have the freedom to do whatever they want. They're not part of my pool. And within that, of course, so the leaders should be ideologically in the same boat together and in the same page, etc. But, for example, if someone outside my ethnicity, they're a different thing. That's the way I see it. They're on a different boat. That's why I said people in my collective are of my ethnicity. Do you get it?
Yeah, that's respectable.
All right. Does anybody want to expand on this?
Nope.
Okay. All right. Well, with that being said, let's go on to number 2. Will Europe erupt into civil war? I kind of like how that worked out. Will Europe erupt into civil war?
I think it will.
It won't.
Okay. So one person says it will, and one person says that it won't. So what is your thinking for Europe erupting into civil war, Stern?
No, the France protests that are going on right now are probably the best example. All corners of whatever political spectrum you want to use. There's people in the streets that are right anarchists, left authoritarians, right authoritarians. Third position, they're all in the streets together against Macron. And if if nothing else, Europe is not going to be the same. Tension is rising, the riots and protests are spreading, and I do think that it is inevitable that there will be some sort of armed conflict in
Okay.
the future.
All right. And T, what is your reasoning for there not being an eventual civil war?
I see the status quo remaining strong for the next decade or two, and the European Union is forming an army. I think there are already brigades that have been already how do you say, that are already active. There will be an expansion. There is currently an expansion in this EU army, meaning if there is chaos in France, Spanish, Italian, German troops will be sent to France to settle any type of civil conflict they're having. The same thing, you'll see Norwegian soldiers in Germany or vice versa. So
Is
this
that
will happen.
not the definition of a civil war, though?
No, civil war, yes, there might be. There won't be any civil war because I see Europe becoming into Brazil. I don't see that stopping. Many people say, "Oh, well, European countries are 80% white, etc." I disagree. Yes, we are 80% white, but remember our birth rates have been below replacement level for a long time now. We've been shipping in non-whites for a very long time now, and they outbreed us. So you're going to see a very quick acceleration in the change in the demographics. So I think in the next 2 decades, many European countries, whites will be a minority.
That doesn't really address any of the points that I brought up. You kind of glossed over the fact that the European army is going to be sent to quell any.
Oh yeah, I said the status quo will be maintained. The masses will stick with the governments. They'll be cut. They're not going to.
84% of France, or around that number, supports the yellow vests.
Yeah, but the yellow vests in France. Well, French have a culture of protesting. That's not a civil war. That's a protest. The yellow vest.
No, but the thing is,
and they support the yellow vest because they're against the increase of taxes, not because they want to start a revolution or anything.
Here's the thing, though. If for Europe not erupting into a civil war is because the European army is going to be sent to quell anything, that is a civil war. That's the army being turned against the nation's own civilians.
Oh no, that's last case scenario. But I know I'm certain that the French army will be able to maintain, and the French army and government will be able to maintain order within their cities for the next 5 decades. To be honest.
Why 5 decades?
Yeah, because I see. Remember, most of the armed forces in France live within these bases where their families and their children they grow up. The government takes care of all their soldiers, and because of the high taxes and welfare state. So yes,
why 50
soldiers
years?
are very loyal to the government.
I'm not talking about soldiers being loyal to the government. Why 50 years? Why do you see it lasting?
Well, I say by 2 decades will be Brazil. So by then, our country's already lost.
Yeah,
and I'm saying,
why do you say that nothing will change now? What's your reasoning? I'm trying to get to your reasoning.
Because the masses won't revert to ethno-nationalism. They might. They
don't have to revert to ethno-nationalism. They just have to be anti whatever exists now. Really pro anything.
Yeah, I don't see us being pushed over the edge, and just like in Brazil, many people would say, "Hey, look, in Brazil, you have gated communities. Why isn't there any civil war?" Yes, it is dangerous, somewhat, Brazil, and I see that's we're going to turn like that.
Brazil was never 80% white like Europe is right now. Brazil, from its very beginning,
that's not true.
White male.
Whites were a majority only a couple decades ago in the country.
A very slim majority, because the Brazilians brought in the largest amount of slaves of any country.
I agree, but white Europeans were, I think, around more than 80% of the population only 5 decades ago, and that changed rapidly. And yes, that happened 5 decades ago, but we're in the process of becoming Brazil, where we're majority white, but next thing you know, we're going to be minority white, our countries.
I'm looking up the demographics of Brazil, and
So basically, what you're
I
saying
think
in the transition of
1950s.
Right. So Nome, basically what you're saying is that in the transition from a white demographic to a non-white demographic, we're not going to see upheavals or shifts.
Nope. Yes, I said that.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I think there'll be some small amount of insurgents, but they'll be immediately crushed by the military or by the civic nationalists or whatever.
All right. And so, would it be more appropriate, do you think, to say that in France, instead of having a civil war, it would be more of kind of a revolution? That would eventually...
Nope, because the French have a culture, and for a long time now, they've had a culture of protests. I've been to France many times, and every time I go, there's always a protest, or, there's unions that organize protests, etc. The current, I think it was 70,000 people were all over the numbers of the Yellow Vest protests were 70,000 all over France. And yes, that is the biggest linked protest that has happened in the past 5 decades. But that's less than 1% of the population. That's less than 1% of the population protesting, because there's more than 66 million people in France, and 70,000 is nothing. Two, the protest is against the increase in taxes. It's not like revolutionary or they want to start a civil war. And two, it's a French culture thing. Like the French just like protesting shit. They do this every day. And it's
have you heard about their list of demands?
Remember, there's been bigger protests. Yeah, I think Macron has to go because it's like his approval rating is like 10% or something.
It's 18% right now, but in their list of requirements for them to stop their protesting, they mentioned that yes, this legislation on taxation has to be expunged, but also that for people that are coming into the country, they have to take I don't know if it's state offered or not, but I believe it's state offered classes on French, and then they have to be able to pass it with a certification.
Like I said, remember, it's less than 1% of the population participating in these Yellow Vest protests. And like I said, the status quo, which is the bulk of the nation, will hold these, not fanatics, but these radicals, so-called radicals, I mean.
Okay, and you don't think that Macron already
every time I go to
getting
France,
rid of
there's
it?
always a protest. There's always protests happening in France. Yes, it's true that they're not linked together. A lot of them is like, just unions in each towns or cities, and the Yellow Vest thing is linked all over France because they're all protesting the same thing, which is rare. But I don't. But it's France.
What do you think about Macron agreeing to scrap the legislation on the tax on I believe it was on gas because of the they said because of carbon emissions, because of global warming? What do you think about the success of the people in getting the government to scrap that legislation?
Oh yeah, that is. But can we call that a success? Really? Like, of course, the legislation was going to raise taxes and make. But okay, they protested. Now the legislation has been stopped. So yes, you could call it a success.
Okay. So basically, this is a scenario or an example where the government kind of showed their hand, kind of put one too many constraints on the people, and then the people fought back a bit.
No, the French have a very weird mentality. France is down the tubes. Most of their cities are dystopias, and the French pay very high taxes. They have a very hardcore welfare state, and most French agree with the welfare. Most French want to pay high taxes because of the assistance they get from the government. They don't have that type of North American attitude where the state should not be big. No, the French like big government. It's just they don't like too much.
Mm-hmm.
There's a line.
Okay.
And the French think that Macron is raising taxes on the poor and lowering taxes on the rich, and that's why they're protesting.
All right. And Stern, you were gonna look up some information on Brazil.
I finally found it. Brazil was only very slim majority white. It was actually majority non-white for most of its history. I don't think that Brazil is really a good example for this.
Well, whites are a minority. Whites next year become a minority country with birth rates. In next year, there'll be more non-white babies being born in the U.S. than white babies, and that means that in 20 years' time, the majority of adults will be non-white. And yes, there are a lot of white people in the U.S., but a lot of them are old. And like I said, the coming generations will be majority brown.
No, but we were talking about Europe.
Oh, of course, in Europe it's even worse because all European countries are all under replacement level.
Yeah, and that's why,
we're importing millions.
It's going to erupt into civil war. Not after the next decade, not after the next 20 years, 30 years, or 40 years. Within the next decade, if not soon.
I think
within the next decade, for example, where? Let's say France. You're underestimating the status quo. It'll hold. Many people in the 50s and the 60s said the same thing. Oh, well, by 2000, when they're pushing homosexuality, when they're pushing this and that, the degeneracy, then there'll be civil wars. And you'll be surprised how degenerate society could become. You're saying this will push us off the ledge. We've been saying this for the past how many decades now? Like we're always like, this is going to push off the ledge. This is going to push off the ledge. I'm convinced like if they try to legalize pedophilia in the future, like that's still not going to cause a civil war. You'll be surprised how far this type of degeneracy could go on for, and you think
how far it could go on for. But I into this trap of speculation that the people in the past have because they didn't graphics. They had no way of knowing intelligentsia would do to legitimize homosexuality.
No,
but now
you should be pushing.
There's a clear stress on the system. Stress, and there's a very clear mass.
Exactly.
This mass uncontrolled immigration. It is very, very well planted in today's culture, especially in Europe and North America.
No, what you should be pushing is economic. What you should be pushing is a recession. If you said, hey, a recession is inevitable and it's going to happen within a decade or two because it's just factual. It's going to happen as a recession. When it happens and there is an economic crisis in the EU, that's breeding ground for civil war. And then I could agree. But no, I agree. If there's a collapse in the economy or a recession or whatever, and that leads to civil war, I still see the government the military holding on to the cities and to the power structure of the country, and whatever insurrections that happen will be crushed. Like after a year or two, they'll be crushed. I don't see them taking the country. So it might happen. A civil war might happen, but I don't see us winning. It's not going to be us purging them. It's going to be them purging us.
Well, are you Italian? Your profile picture is Italy ball. Are you European?
Yes, I'm Italian.
Your country's probably doing a lot better than the other ones, I would say, because of Salvini.
Yeah, it triggers me a lot. A lot of ethnonets I've been talking to Europe, and they say, "Oh, our goal is for us to reach to become like Italy. We need to vote in far right governments and this and that."
No, don't vote them in. Yeah.
No. I'm saying if we vote in, Italy did it, right? We voted in far right. There's no change happening. Yes, we've turned down we've turned away the votes from coming in from Libya full of black people, but legal brown people still come in our country all the time. Mm-hmm. And our country's not getting. It's not like we've.
It's slowing the process. It's slowing the inevitable. That's what voting in people does.
Okay, well that's not a solution. That's like
Yeah, exactly.
that's just saying.
I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that it's not good to vote in the people that you
No, but I agree.
like
I
because
think Italy
they
is
call
one of the very few countries in Europe that if there was a civil war, it would be us purging them. It would be the ethno-Nats that would win the war in Italy because Italians
I
make up
think it would
more
be
than
like that
95% of the
in Greece.
population. What?
Say that it would be like that in maybe Greece, Italy, and Eastern Europe. But in Western
No,
Europe,
Greece
it's
it
a
would be
different story.
massacre. Greece it would be massacre because the communists outnumber the ethno-Nats like 2-1, and then it's like you have no idea how many brown people are in Greece, so it would be the ethno-Nats win in 5 seconds. In Italy, there's a chance because Italians, there's 60 million Italians. We're more than 90% homogeneous, and we're very right wing as a whole. And yes, then the ethno-Nats could win in Italy, we could win in Poland, we could win in Hungary. But in countries like France, oh god, like RIP for real, because France is not coming back.
Oh yeah, I mean, so we do agree that Europe will erupt to civil war. It's just
I think you guys are
then
disagreeing over the
disagree on.
outcome.
Yeah, we're just disagreeing over the outcome at this point. Go ahead and
But
move
like
on
I
to the next
said,
question.
there would it be a civil war though? I just see it as small
I mean,
insurrections. That's all I see it as.
Well, that is a civil war, though.
I think basically you're talking about failed revolution.
Yeah, like a failed revolution is still a civil war. Had lost the Russian Civil War, it would have still been a civil war. The South lost the U.S.
but
Civil
I see
War, and it
that
was
like
still a
happening
civil
in 2
war.
decades, not anytime soon.
I think maybe he means as in the two parties that are going to be participating in the war. One will be far outmatched, and so it's not much of a conflict, but it's more of like a putting down of sorts. Like you're putting down the opposition. Well, I mean,
no, but the thing is, I want the Muslims to turn France into a caliphate. I want the communists to make their utopia in London or England or whatever. I want the anarchists to wreak chaos and havoc all over Europe, not for accelerationism, but for destruction. In the sense that our enemies are our governments. Our governments are trying to replace us. They're trying to destroy us. They're doing this. They're not hiding this anymore. They're making it very obvious. So I want the complete disarmament of my enemy. Right. So if the Muslims take over, if the communists take over, they're going to not only handicap these territories, but Europe will become Guatemala. Will be no different from some South American third world country. And I think we need to organize a back door. We need a exodus of whites. We need to organize a refugee camp, so the whites fleeing the West will you know what I'm saying, will stay safe. Because taking back this shit, we're minority. Whites are a minority. Ethno-nationalists are minority. Yeah, so, and you're saying that we're going to take all of this back?
My argument against that is the American revolutionaries were a minority. The French Revolution was a minority. The Bolsheviks were a minority. The National Socialists of Germany were a minority. The Fascists of Italy. History isn't made by the whims of a majority rising up. It's the whims of a very radical and extreme minority rising up and gaining support steadily. Because the French Revolution...
I completely agree. If there's a civil war that happens next year, or in the next 5 years, we're going to take back Europe 100%. In the next 5 years, if there's a civil war, you're completely right. France will be retaken, Germany will be retaken, etc. I don't see a civil war happening in the next 5 years, and the clock is ticking. So in 10 years,
we agree on this.
The tables turn. We won't be able to retake it. You understand? It's a matter of time. Yeah. If it happens today, we're going to retake it.
Agree on this then. It's just if it takes too long, it's not going to happen, and it never will.
It's pretty interesting about the demographics or of revolution. Usually only about 3% of the population actually participates in it. The others are apathetic or they're loyal to the the dominant power at the time. It's usually what the numbers are. But I think that we talked about this point at length. It was a very interesting conversation. Let's go to question number 3. Should education be compulsory for children?
Yes.
Okay. And would you like to expand on that, Stern?
Children cannot be trusted to make their own decisions whether or not they want to go to school. There should be some minimum requirement of education for, in an ideal state, all children.
All right. And
when you lack that, you are taking away the possibility of a whole future. Like, even if it's something like education, like how to add, subtract, write your own name, or even how to, in a rural area, even how to farm. Education is necessary.
Okay. And so when we say compulsory, do you think it should be a state compulsory, or should be that children have to be taught in some capacity?
I think that any form of compulsory has to be state. Because even the second option you said, if it is compulsory.
I mean, as in the state is the one giving the education.
Yes. The education does need to be a system that can organize it to provide quality education, or at least some sort of majority of people, if not all.
Okay. I would say with technology that we have today, it would be interesting what kind of options would be available. So, for instance, it could be, I think that children should learn a vocation. I think that they should be educated on matters in order to participate in their society and government in a productive way. But I don't see the state needing to enforce the curriculum. I think that with the tools that we have through technology, it's pretty interesting. Like when I was younger, I used Khan's Academy to learn a whole bunch of stuff, and I did the whole entire system, and I learned more from that than I did at my own school. So I see in the future probably it could be made compulsory, but the curriculum doesn't have to be state enforced. I just imagine how cheap it could be to run online schools. I know there's been a lot of TED Talks about it. Like, for instance, they've been installing machines in India and having the kids learn different sciences, things like that. It's very interesting.
My only thing against that would be, well, first of all, I'm not completely against that. That wouldn't really be contrary to my position. It would just be current education system of any country. So that would fit under mine. But my only issue with completely online schooling is that there needs to be some way to be able to associate with one another on a mass scale, not just on some sort of local level, like kids on your street.
Yeah, that's
some place where children can congregate, because there's going to be the inevitable case where one child grows up alone in a street corner. It's not really feasible for him to just go riding a bike until he finds someone his age.
Right. And I think
for young children to be able to build social skills with one another.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And maybe part of that curriculum could be social engagement. It sounds like a really dreadful, like, sci-fi
social
future.
Engagement does need to be
Please step outside for your 15 minutes of social engagement training. Yeah,
and then you just hear 50 doors open and close across your street.
All at the same time.
Or wait, I'm gonna... Alright.
Yeah, echoing of tiny footsteps. It's pretty interesting watching people who have been homeschooled their whole entire lives, how they interact with other people. It's very interesting.
Oh yeah, homeschooled children that have never been in a public school are very socially awkward. I have a very good anecdote about this.
Mm-hmm.
13. I was in 7th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Old kid was my age, but he was always playing with my little brother. He wasn't cognitively developed. He was not socially able to really speak on the same level as me because allowed outside of his mom's sight. When he rode his bike, his mom was following directly behind him in her car.
Wow, really?
One time I said, "Ah, crap" or something, and he's like, "Hey, don't say potty words, or I'll go tell my mom." I'm like, what?
Wow, really?
And I was just like, "Is crap a potty word?" He's like, "Stop saying it." And I'm like, it may not necessarily be that he was homeschooled. It's just he had a helicopter parrot, so
Yeah.
he was homeschooled.
Mm-hmm.
Positive feedback loop.
Well, you see, I was raised Jehovah's Witness, and basically everybody that I grew up with was homeschooled. But because Jehovah's Witnesses are very social with each other, as in we would hang out with each other all the time. You know, we would finish our homeschooling work, and then we would go hang out at each other's houses and go out in field service and knock on doors and talk to people. Jehovah's Witnesses are usually very socially adept, more so than normal people. And nobody really had that problem. But I can see when you don't have your own community, when you're kind of boxed off from everyone by your parents or just by your circumstances, I can definitely see that, yeah. So maybe it's more so of a situation where the parents are creating the social environment. Because I know myself growing up, I had a great social environment. But
Holding back the tears.
yeah. Well, I mean,
On a side note, though, kind of like really tangential to this,
mhm.
arranged marriages are pretty based.
We all know this. This is preschool opinions.
Yeah.
Of course they're based.
Think about it. Going off of that social education or whatever you want to call it statistic I saw, I forgot what the exact number was. Majority of successful marriages, the people meet through family.
Mhm.
Of course.
It's really,
Isn't this just
gives
common
credit.
sense?
Think about it. If your family gets along with the family of another person and you get along with them, that marriage is gonna last. But you know, that's just
No, I don't think it's that. I think this type of like Disney movie where you're supposed to like, you know, sleep around with many partners and find the right one and then fall in love, and that's why there's so many divorces, because that's not how it's supposed to happen. You're supposed to. That's why arranged marriages work out so well, because
Usually it's because you have a
you're
duty
supposed to be.
to
Yeah,
your
exactly.
family.
Exactly. So
You have no one
and then it
else
works
to
much
compare
better.
them to.
Oh, Daddy's trying to say something?
I was just adding in that you have no one else to compare them to. You haven't been with like as many people.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's what I was talking with another. You remember Somber? I was talking to her with her about this, and
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
remember her.
yeah, it's like after you date so many men, it's like you're always going to be comparing every single one to the best guy that you were with if you didn't end
Yeah,
up with
even if
him.
you don't notice you're doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
I feel bad
maybe that's like a
because
mental
like
tick for women. I'm not sure.
no, I think it's really bad. Like when these people have had
you know.
so many partners in their lives, I think they're damaged. Like and I think this has been proven scientifically, where the more partners you have, the less stable you'll be in future relationships, like in future marriages especially.
Hmm. Yeah, but
I'm gonna get damage tattooed across my forehead just because you said that. Dye my hair green.
Yeah.
We live in a society. I think we're really getting off topic though.
yeah, we are. But I mean, it's actually a nice branch of conversation because
we should include this on the next debate night. That would be a really good question.
That would be a good question. I'll add that to next debate night. Okay, so we're gonna go to number 4. Is it correct to criticize someone for using bad English even if they come from a community where bad English is the norm?
Linguistically, yes.
No.
Death penalty.
No, I don't know. No.
Linguistically, yes.
Okay, so Daddy, you said no. Can you explain your thinking on that matter, on your answer?
I mean, I don't have like a huge like opinion on it exactly. I don't know. Staying in Scotland, like they don't pronounce anything right, but of course English is like the only language they know, and I mean, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't bother me. It wasn't like, oh, disgusting, get away from me. I'm going to flex on you just by speaking proper English because you can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I mean,
I agree with you. Yeah, so maybe it depends on the social context. So, like, if you're just hanging out, like in a pub or on the street, it's not really an issue. But what about a more formal setting, like an academic setting?
I
oh
would
yeah.
say-
Well, yeah, in that case, like avoid trying to use slang and stuff like that. Like if you know the correct terms, go ahead and
Mhm.
try, please. Like,
Right.
I would say that it depends on what kind of area you're in because, Bravo, since you and I are American, we can both kind of bond over this. If you're in a majority black area or in a room with a, it's not very smart to criticize their pronunciation.
No, not smart
You
at all.
really shouldn't do that. I mean, it's linguistically, it's always correct to criticize bad English, but
Yeah.
socially speaking, there are consequences to every action you take.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Body for using slang or like you're grading some papers, you're peer reviewing something, and they use probably, gonna, wanna, and all these things. Yeah, criticize that because it's an academic paper, some sort of essay, but
Mhm.
it's all about the situation. It's always linguistically correct, but it's not always socially correct.
Mhm. I remember
even-
in
Go
school.
on.
Yeah, I remember in school. There was like there was this group of black kids, and we would be having like English lecture, or we would have drama class, like when I was in drama. And I had like this very fierce, red-haired, short drama teacher with these startling blue eyes. But she would always, anytime you made any error at all in the way you spoke, she would correct you, and then she would make you say, your sentence again. And the black group, they will be like, "You was doing that," and all these different errors, and she would always make them say it over and over and over again, and they would get so frustrated. But it was actually pretty funny after a while.
I'm surprised she didn't get jumped and gang.
Well, it's in the
ganged
South,
up on.
It's one thing if you're correct.
I know exactly. It's in the South.
Oh yeah, but Daddy, you're saying?
I was just saying it's one thing if you're correcting someone because you genuinely want them to do better rather than just trying to embarrass them too.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
fuck, but embarrassing people's the best way to get them to change.
I mean, I'm a teacher, so like
Doxed.
some level doxed, yeah. Well,
Well, we can
At
cut out
some
anything you
level.
want me. I'll cut out anything you want me to.
No, I was joking, by the way, but whatever.
Yeah,
What?
you're not gonna find somebody from knowing their teacher. It's not a dox,
No,
Bravos. Don't
Well,
worry.
I know. I don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable.
well, I like know you like outside of Discord, so I'm not like
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, as a teacher, like I mean, I'm in an academic setting all day, but it's a different kind of academic setting. So even if I hear like improper English, I don't tend to correct it because it's not what I'm teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't really given much thought to it now that I think about it.
Guys,
Mm-hmm.
I think the answer is quite simple. It depends.
Why don't we kill the Batman?
No, I would say it depends. For example, in Italy, people have a tendency for using their dialects or their accents,
Mm-hmm.
even in school, and naturally the teachers get annoyed because they're teachers, it's a school environment, so you're not supposed to be using like dialect or accents or whatever. And many times, someone speaks to a teacher and you correct them. The teacher immediately corrects the student, and I think it just depends on the situation. Like if you're in a school, if you're with your family, then people should correct you. But if you're like in public with strangers, then yeah, in that situation you can't correct strangers because you don't know them. You understand?
Yeah,
you're
and
gonna
they're they could
Gonna
already
catch
have
these hands
like
if you correct a stranger.
exactly, like for instance, you're bringing up like the black community, like they already kind of have like this idea of this sort of prejudice from the white man. So if you're like a white guy and you come up to them and you lecture them about their
Hello, my
way of,
fellow
I don't-
African
I don't
Americans.
say
I
that.
noticed that you misused some English terms. You said that he be working. Well, actually, the proper usage of be is only as the verb. You should not be using it
No,
as.
guys, this is hypocritical.
you got beef, white boy.
This is very hypocritical. We always say that culture is downstream from race, and the Australians, the Kiwi, the South Africans, they develop their accents and their variations of English.
Mhm.
And if, for example, if I went to another city in Italy, like if I went to Naples and I'd corrected them, or you know how disrespectful that would be, they would jump
You
me.
finna catch this spaghetti, dude.
No, but they would also it would be very disrespectful if I tried to like say, hey, you know, your accent's weird or you're pronouncing stuff wrong. Technically, you know, this is the right way to say it, whatever. So you guys are having this double standard. That's what it looks like. Oh, where blacks are weird, but Australians aren't. Like,
It's
of course,
it's kind of different in
create their own-
America because it's like there's like little pockets. You know what I mean? It's like it's something that's only.
But that's what it's supposed to do. Culture is downstream from race.
Mhm.
Blacks go to the U.S. They develop their own accents and their own language and culture. It's normal, right? So why are we pretending to be shocked? This is supposed.
Oh no, I'm not pretending to be shocked.
Mhm. No. Like
But
like
it's not
Shocked at
hypocritical.
all.
It sounds like you were kind of making fun of it while when it's nature, like it's supposed to be like that.
well, it's kind of funny because it's something that seems to be isolated to them in our country. So like Indian people, they will say things grammatically correct, or at least
they have very. I know some Indian people and they're really nice. Like
Mhm.
I'm Hindu, so like I talk to some.
at least they'll try. You know, they'll ask
Really
you. Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
get what you guys are saying. So Italians went to Argentina, and in Argentina they have their own variation of Spanish because of all the Italian immigrants.
Mhm.
And the same thing is happening in the U.S. You got a lot of Africans. You ship them to the U.S. and they have their variation of English. So
It's more like it's not really like a variation, as in it's kind of like completely incorrect. So there's like degrees of absurdity. So
what?
So
That's Argentinian.
usually
Argentinian is bad Spanish. That's the point of Argentinian. It's supposed to be Argentinian said if an Italian tries to speak Spanish, that's Argentinian.
I think I think it comes down to like the degree of absurdity that you've taken it to. Because
Isn't it supposed to master IQ? Or are they supposed to speak like posh, like the Queen or something?
Yes.
well,
I would love to hear speak posh. That would be the. Yeah.
Well,
No, but we're not like making fun of it as if they're white or anything. Like we recognize that it's talking. We're just kind of like.
Yeah, but it's kind of sounded like you guys were like shocked. Oh, why are they talking bad? Oh, well, why do they have their variations? Oh, why do they? For me, just like
No,
it's
we know why. But it's an American thing to make fun of it because it's draws a lot of conflict. If you heard him, you wouldn't be able to understand him. Like you really would not. Really mumbly.
So what? That's how it's supposed to be. Whites are supposed to have their accents. Blacks are supposed to have their accents.
Well, here's the thing. It's kind of like it's kind of like because our cultures are so tied together, as in we're existing in the same place at the same time. So it's kind of like so weird that you live so closely together, and you're like you go to school together, you go to the movies together, but then they talk so different. It's almost like it would be almost like they're trying to be different on purpose by the way that they talk. That's how it would appear to you if you just came in.
Think about it like this. Imagine
this is much more prevalent in Italy. In Italy, you have Southerners that when they move to the north, they still show that they're Southerners by the way they talk, by the way they act, and it's like it's almost like they're proud because they use their accent, and it's ridiculous. Like even in, you get what I'm saying.
That's what
Are you
it's like
talking
in the
about, like,
US. It's like
accent?
that with North versus South.
Well, there's a difference between
Kind of thing.
accent and then completely grammatically messing up the language.
Yeah, we're not.
For
like,
example,
trying to make
Roman
accent.
is a joke. Roman, their accent is mispronouncing every word. I could easily speak Roman, like with the Roman accent, because I have to just mispronounce every Italian word, and that's that's just an example, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm just more used
But like,
to this
here's the
because maybe
thing:
in Italy it's more
if a
prevalent.
Roman came to like Sicily or something, and he was speaking his dialect, poked fun at every once in a while.
Yeah, it would be hilarious in this situation.
Exactly, like that's what we're saying. We're not saying like go to Rome and make fun of the way they pronounce things. We're saying like if they're
I
around you.
see. Don't worry, we make fun of it too. We make a lot of fun of it.
Okay, well, yeah, exactly. Like that's what we're saying. Like, way to do it. But like, if it just kind of like comes up, or if you're in the right place, right time, just sure, go right ahead.
Right.
No, I think what you guys are saying, it's kind of prevalent in Germany. For example, in Italy, if you're from a region and you move to a different region, you stick with your accent because you're kind of proud, you show it, etc. In Germany, it's the opposite. In Germany, if you have an accent or dialect, you're ashamed of it because it's kind of like, oh, I'm a stupid. I don't speak standard German. So the Germans are ashamed of not being able to speak standard German. While in
It just
Italy,
kind of seems like German guilt, like
your
not wanting to be nationalist or something.
But I noticed something that you
No,
said
I buy it
about
'cause
when
it's
you're
an ignorance thing.
yeah. I've noticed
Like if you
something
speak
that
like a
you've
country boy, then it is ignorant.
yeah, Tia, I've noticed something that you've continually said is when people move from one geographic location to another, like geographically distinct locations. But with us, it's kind of like I can go to the white powder town and I can hear everyone speak normally, and then I can see like blacks who also live there and they talk differently. So it's kind of like more absurd for us. Does that make sense?
If like
I don't think so.
Imagine if the Argentinian Spanish speakers started Catalonia with Argentinians, and it'd kind of be like that.
No, for example, there's some areas in Italy where they promote standard Italian. I would say maybe Milan is a strong one, where they love standard Italian, like the one that's ruthless almost. And
isn't Milan
they
like one
say
of the most cosmopolitan areas of Italy?
Yeah, and then if you go there speaking accent, they'll make fun of you and say you're ignorant and that you're whatever.
Yeah, but it's not like that. It's like you're specifying geographic locations, or just saying in America in general, you'll have white and black people living next to each other, like right next to each other, and it's so different. Like even though they're basically intermixing, they live in the same areas. Like for instance, where I live, there's like I live in a primarily white neighborhood, but then we also have black people within the neighborhood, and we're living together. But they speak completely different. It's like startling.
I think we're beating this topic like a
death.
dead horse.
Yeah.
Like we've been kind of like all repeating the same thing.
And it's not, but then again, it's not like we're being like prejudiced against them or anything. It's just like, oh wow, it's. I don't think it's the same thing like for Europeans. That's the thing.
Yeah, because like especially Italy. Like, earlier you said Italy was really homogenous, so I don't think it like Italian equivalent to it.
Okay, well let's go to question 5. Should the currency production be controlled by the state, or should currency compete in the marketplace?
I say that currency should be controlled by the name Shlomo Shekel Bergenstein and Blasowitz.
Oh no.
I'm back.
Hey.
It should be state controlled.
Well, T, I'll repeat the question for you. The question was, should currency production be controlled by the state, or should currency compete in the marketplace? Basically, your currency would be provided by private banks. They manufacture their own currencies, and then the currencies compete against each other. Or should it be that there's an all-encompassing kind of treasury, and they print the money, and to produce any other tinder would be against the law.
Okay, so for the last three questions you've asked, the answers differ. It depends in two ways. What is more practical and what is ideal? For example, the last question you asked, ideally the state will print its own money and there'll be central government or whatever. I mean a central bank, etc. That would be the ideal. Pragmatically, meaning if we were all in Siberia and we had like liberalism and people had their guns and whatever, then sure, there could be a lot of banks that print their own money. So I think one thing is pragmatic and the other thing is ideal. Like the school thing. Ideally, there would be public schools and everyone would learn the same thing. Pragmatically, maybe it might be better for homeschooling everyone or creating your own private schools. You get what I'm saying? Like one thing is Wild West living, the other thing is utopia living. So it depends on what we could, what situation we're in.
Or what a state currency would be a lot better than a marketplace of differing currencies just for stability.
From what I know,
another thing to be set to the forces of a market or of currency. That's by the bust boom cycle of that's inherent within, like, early on in America, each state had its own currency. There was no guarantee that your currency would be worth anything if you left where you were. That it might devolve into something like that, whereas if you have one central currency with currency laws, some sort of guarantee behind that.
Yeah. And then, but there's also cons to the central banking as well, which would be basically taxing the future generation, putting debt on them by way of inflation.
Also.
Or would you outlaw inflation?
I would outlaw usury. I would outlaw interest.
Okay. So,
the best reading for that, if you're interested in it, Bravos, read the Manifesto for the Abolition of Thraldom of Interest Slavery by Gottfried Feder. I'll send you a PDF later. But it goes into how the issue with central banking and of, enslaving future generations to debt or inflation is solved by abandoning the practices of
usury.
Now, like, granted, it'll be term because banks will feel cheated.
Okay. Just let us know, like, or do you have to go now, T, or?
I don't have to go now, but soon.
Okay.
Right.
Like maybe one more question or something.
All right. That's fair enough. All right, well...
The U.S. government has a lot of debt.
Yes.
And a lot of the money that's being used to so-called pay off this debt is actually just going to the interest owed on the debt. That is, private bonds and everything.
Right.
If the government were today to say, hey, kind of lied, you guys aren't really making money off of all these bonds, so let's make a deal. I tax you less, and I don't pay the interest. So in reality, it's incredibly simplified, it's incredibly streamlined, and we can actually work towards paying off our debt instead of me taxing you a lot more to pay off the interest on the debt I owe you.
Or, we could just exile them.
Well, exile the government?
We'll exile the private bankers.
I mean, the interest on, like, federal loans and all those things.
Yeah, we owe that to the, the Federal Reserve, right?
Yeah.
We could say, they're international, so you can't really,
wait. Yeah, you're right. Exile them.
Yeah, I was just thinking, it was like a nod to the past. Nod to our lovely history.
French Revolution bankruptcy type deal where the French after the French Revolution were like, oh no, those were the debts of the French crown. We have no debt. And the U.S. and France had some naval battles over it.
That feeling when America just stages a fake coup and then they're like, oh, well, it's not really our debt. Exactly. Okay, so let's go on to I don't know, with T here. I kind of want to ask 7 because it's a more fun question. Yeah, I'll ask
I guess
7.
It's up to you. Which one? All right, yeah,
Yeah.
let's ask 7.
Oh wait, well, T, would you like to? Well, since you're about to go, which question do you want to? Which one do you want?
Which one are they?
We have 6, 7,
To
and
what
8.
extent is society responsible for its own members, or if you
So
could choose
where
your
do I
gender?
read the list?
The list is in voice chat.
Yeah.
Let's see where I'm at. Okay. Okay. So 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, choose whichever one you want to talk about before you go.
Oh my god, I don't know. To be with if you could six maybe.
Okay.
6.
All right. So, to what extent is society responsible for its own members?
What does that question mean? Like, what do you mean to responsible? Like responsible, like if they die.
Responsible for their
Would that be
welfare. Responsible for whatever range of things that you think the government should be responsible for its own citizens, or society in general.
Okay.
Oh, I think
So
it's not the government working for the people. It's the people working for the government to create a greater good.
It can mean that if you
Or
want to.
I would change that to say the people working for the nation, not necessarily the government.
Oh yeah, sure. So it's not the
sort
nation,
of-
it's not the government serving the people. It's the people. Well, I think it's almost
goes
like
both ways.
Well, there's
what
a
does
distinction
responsibility
between
mean?
government and then society. So, like, before, you didn't need the government to enforce, say, take care of divorces, or because society would enforce marriages. There would be a lot of shame if you were to be
also
divorced.
another reason that the government
Okay. So
is
I would rephrase the question. The question is, to what extent is a state responsible for its own population, for its population?
Well, it would be like society. So basically, it's what responsibility does your community have for you? For instance.
No, yeah, but for me it's the state because there's no such thing as a community, at least in my eyes.
Okay.
So
What do you
to what
mean by
extent is a state responsible for its population, and
You
what
can
does
say that.
responsible mean though? Like,
As in,
I
what
don't get.
what does a state have to provide to its citizens in order for it to be a legitimate state, or for it to be acting in the capacity
I
that you think a
think-
state should act in?
Oh, I see. So it has to be upheld to a standard.
Mhm.
That's the thing.
So wait, what do you mean by you don't think there's such thing as communities?
Like I don't like freedom. It gives too much room for subversion, and that's in communities. Like, what does that mean? The freedom, like the plebs are free
No,
to.
Communities
Like,
is a
are you
group
telling
of
sheep
people.
to herd themselves? I don't get it.
Community would just be like
Just
a town
group
or a
of people.
village.
Yeah. Like a
Yeah, no one
township.
who controls the town or village? Is it the sheep? I don't understand.
Well, it would be like
I
the
mean,
mayor
it's-
or like the
it's
village
people
leader,
that are in it.
but it would
Yeah,
be
exactly. So it's a state that
ratio.
controls the population. That's what it is.
I mean,
And
you
you're
could
saying-
you could say that to it, but
How do you uphold the standards of the state?
Mhm.
And I
not
would
uphold
say,
the standards, but like what would the state provide for its citizens? That's basically
Or what would
saying.
the standards be?
of course, the standards would be very high. In a sense, not like you need to artificially create hard times for strong men. You can't pamper your population too much. So yeah, no one's gonna have the current society where everyone has iPhones and laptops and everyone has a car, and that will go. You need
Eco-fascism now.
You have to take away televisions. You have to take away Netflix and YouTube and all this bullshit. So you need a low maintenance society because that'll bring them more happiness and more peace. and the government has to organize, facilitate good environment for the masses. The thing is, I think the standard should be high, meaning idealism. It's not that complicated. Having a simple life, having arranged marriages, and that it's not that complicated. But if you're saying responsibility, I don't believe in rights. Like I believe in privileges. So everything that the government provides, the healthcare protection, I see that all. I'll label that all as privileges instead of rights. Because the rights thing is very plebeian. Like, oh, I'm a person, and I have the right for you. No. Like I don't have any right.
So
I get all of this money.
wait,
It's
when you mean like
privileges.
there's gonna be no phones or anything? Are you saying like, for instance, there's gonna be a law against any new patents or any kind of innovation that would be put toward entertainment use?
Oh yeah, there's no such thing as patents. There's no such thing as taxes. And of course,
No taxes?
So tax is cheap. It's like I don't understand.
No, wait. How would the government function if there's nothing to provide income for the government?
Because it's a how do you say, a loop. It's a loop economy.
A loop economy.
So there's no inflation.
Well, no, but wait. What the government if there's no taxation?
The money. I don't see things in terms of capital. I see it in production. I see things in production and in actual productivity.
So then, what would sustain
efficiency.
the government?
Wait, are you saying this is gonna be a moneyless society?
No, you would have to use money, but in the way where the government prints all the money they need, right? All the money that.
Oh, that's inflation.
No, because it wouldn't, because it's a closed economy, meaning the money that the government prints out always ends up back in their pocket. So they print out money and it ends up back in their pocket, and then you would have no inflation because the extra money would be disbanded.
How would it end up back in their pocket without taxes?
Because it's a closed system.
No, but how does the state get it without taxes?
Yeah, it seems like they just have to use it and then print more.
Because the economy it's not a free economy. Like there's no monopolies that are.
Okay, so it's like a complete command economy, like USSR.
No, it would be Third Reich economy, where you would have
there would be taxes.
No, I think the Third Reich was leading to this economy, but Germany things function more slowly, so you would have.
Unless that money circulates back, then it is inflation.
No, we're talking about technicalities. So there would be monopolies. There would be, free ownership of businesses. But in the end of the day, technically, the CEO of that monopoly is a worker of the government.
But money doesn't turn into. But money doesn't turn into production. It doesn't magically turn into production. That money still will exist and it still has to circulate.
I'm asking, the thing I'm trying to get to is, how does it end up back in the hands of the government if there is no taxation?
Mm-hmm.
And it goes from the government to everything else and then back to the government, but there's no way to get it back to the government unless people are voluntarily giving everything to the government.
Or the government provides the service.
Obviously not going to happen.
All right, so the thing is, there is the government, there's the population, and there's the services. The government puts all the money they need, right? It gives it to the population, and the population pays for the services, which ends up in the pocket of the government.
Oh.
Okay, so the government owns the services.
For the extra money that might cause inflation, which I won't, but if it does, will be disbanded. So you would get the profits and then disband the profits to get rid of inflation. so there would be no inflation. And
Wait, no
this type of
profits?
system is strong, and it is, and I think it leads to efficiency. I think the current system, I would say, is 40 to 50% efficient, while this system is more than 80% efficient. Meaning you
So
actually mobilize your assets and your
So
resources much faster and much better than you would in the current system.
but you're saying since
so
it's a
wait, let me
closed
try to.
system, like there's gonna be, you said there's no profits, but you said you're also gonna allow for private businesses, or you're saying private
Yes,
businesses are controlled by the state. In that case, they're state-run businesses.
it's a technicality. They're free businesses, but technically they're not free businesses. You get it?
So they're run by the government, or they run by like by people
They're
that
run by
actually profit.
individuals. They're run by individuals, but it's a technicality question where you own your own business and you run it, but technically there's no such thing as a free business because the government owns everything technically, but your business is yours. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, but then how would it go
I
back to the state?
no, he's.
The money, at least,
No, it will
because
But
you
go
said
back
the
to the state
services
I'm gonna
due
outline
to
it.
regulations. Regulations.
So then there would be taxes.
No regulations, no taxes,
So
just
okay,
regulations. So, for
with
example,
regulations,
if I
if
if I
money
make a
is being
service,
paid out of private hands to the government, that is taxation.
no, there's no transfer of money. That's why I said regulations. Um, if I have a business currently and I provide a service, I decide what the price will be. I decide, the mechanisms of it, and I make a lot of profit, right? Um, in this, there will be regulations, so I wouldn't make that much profit. I would make a decent amount of profit, and the service I provide will be the right price instead of being overpriced like it currently is. Because most things you might not see it, but they're actually almost everything's overpriced, and people make a lot too much profit. And it makes sense; they have to make too much profit because a lot of that profit goes into paying taxes, goes into paying other overpriced stuff, etc. Um, so you get what
No,
I'm saying.
but
But when I
wait,
But
say
there
like
wouldn't be
regulations,
too much profit. It's just enough because they need to pay taxes.
no, and then they have extra profit for useless BS that they don't need, like
I-
cars and this. I don't understand.
I'm not
Like
understanding.
because it's not
I
efficient. It's
don't
not an
know.
efficient system.
I don't understand the system you're trying to outline. I
Oh, and
really
like I
don't.
said, I know you guys like cars because you're American, and that makes sense. But I'm saying at least in Europe, yeah, everyone can own a car. This is horrible. Like the
Oh yeah,
cars
no,
have
I
destroyed
agree.
Italy. At least in, huh?
Like cars are probably the reason that in America is so bad. I hate suburban
No, I
sprawl.
agree. Cars are a good thing in the U.S. because you're like a different country. But in Italy, cars have destroyed all the cities.
Well,
They've destroyed everything.
everything's so far apart in America, so it necessitates a car. But in
Exactly.
Europe, you can bike everywhere. I would love to live in Europe and just bike.
No, but the thing with cars, yeah, like the point is, um, people, the system's not. You make a lot of people make a lot of money, and they spend the money not good, and it's for useless things and whatever. So a lot of the when this system, but what was the question again about responsibility? Oh yeah, the standards that the state will be held up to would be the ideology. I have an ideology, right? And that's the ideology clearly states the standards that the state's supposed to have. If it breaks those standards, then it's not. Then it that that then it's not doing what it's supposed to. You get what I'm saying?
You know what would be awesome, T, is if you make like a chart, like on Paint or something, and then you just show like the site, like the flow of money in that society. Because you said it's like a loop, so it would then see
Not
the.
necessarily money, just like production or whatever you
So
like.
you
Mhm.
have a printing machine, right? The government has printing machines. They print out the money, and it's about if you have to think past money, it's about what assets you have, uh, and what the assets you have, the production, and the reality. And to organize that and to mobilize things, you need to use money, right? To
Mhm.
pay people.
Mhm.
And money is just a tool. So the government will print the money they need, or the money the money they could allow, and then the money will end up back in their pocket. You understand?
That would
The
just mean
thing that
they
we're
are really.
missing,
Mhm.
the thing that we're missing is how it directly ends up back in the government's pocket. Like if it all goes back to what takes it from the business to the government?
Hold on. Because of that technicality that I pointed out. So
but,
all
like,
services
I'm
are
still
technically
how bad
the government, and the
that
prices,
goes
the
to
profits are all regulated.
So
So
basically,
people make profits, right? But then that profit they make goes to other services, which in the end goes to the pocket of the government. Do you understand? And then so any profit anyone makes is
what
regulated.
you're saying is that it all goes to the government in the end. Everything that's paid to these private businesses goes to the government.
No, but the point of this system is to facilitate the advancement and betterment of the people. Because it's not like the government's goal isn't to go. The government's goal is to.
It's paid to the business. Does it go directly to the government? That's what I'm asking. I'm not asking anything else.
No,
this money is paid to the government.
You regulate the profit. That's it. That's all you have to do.
Does it end up in the government? How does it end up in the government? Just by, like, okay, if it's being paid to the government by this private owner, it is, even if you call it a regulation, it is tax. Taxes exists in that economy. If it goes directly to the government, then I can see how it ends.
You're saying that there's a transfer of money. What simply happens? I own a business. I provide a service. How do you say? The prices that I could sell my services are regulated. Hence, I make a decent amount of profit, right? But my services are very cheap. Do you understand?
Okay.
And there's no money.
But how does it end up in the hands of the government? It all goes. Okay, what you're saying is that all of these things are paid to the business. But how does it make the jump from the business to the government? I know that you're saying is that it's.
You're right. You're right. I'm completely missed something out, and you would have a. You're right. You're actually right. Mm-hmm. They would. Oh, okay. You're right. You're right. So it would have to be the services. The money that is sent to the services ends up in the pocket of the government. You're right.
Okay. All right. Then. Okay. Yes, I understand it now. It was like that one tiny thing, and it was eating me away inside.
No, but it's you're a businessman, right? You're CEO of McDonald's, okay? And now you become the supreme dictator of Switzerland. You add McDonald's or just any business management idea to a country. You're like, okay, we're gonna run a country like a business. Say, the government will, and I think I don't like it, but it is efficient. I think it does heighten the productivity, the power, and the standards of people.
All right.
Hello.
All right. Now that you said your little thing, I'm gonna go ahead and answer number 6. That was a lengthy discussion. All right. So, to what extent is society responsible for its own members? I'm gonna build off of that, like, society type thing, and it's a dual street. It's like that Prussian socialism type thing. All of the people of the state owe something, and the nation takes care of its people, because without one you don't have the other. Without the people you don't have the state or the nation. Without the nation or state you don't have people. That it would work is you have national syndicates, the labor unions that make up the bulk of the government. The phalange, the Spanish phalange. That's what I'm basing this all off of. Like Jose Antonio, that's my guy. The extent, I would say that it's not by virtue of breathing that you society, but by virtue of being a productive member of society and contributing to your nation, then you're taken care of. You're provided for as long as you are productive to your best capacity.
So is it a meritocracy of sorts?
Yeah, I would say it's a meritocracy, but like I got into an argument the other day with this democratic socialist guy, and he says that meritocracy is corrupt and that the best option is complete democracy.
Okay. And he was just basically making a moral argument, and that the whole entire thing should be based upon
saying
morality.
like, what do you base merit on? And to respond before he says, "Who's the best artist? What do you base the merit of art on?" Be a chance to respond with the fact that, only recently some sort of subjectivity of beauty, and art isn't the best example of a meritocracy.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, just going out on this spiel, there's a very clear line between a bad engineer and a good engineer, between a bad steel worker and a good steel worker. You can measure their capacity to produce. The only thing you can't measure is innovativeness, creativity, and all of these things that can be, all of these things that have that people draw an issue with,
mm-hmm.
are qualitative and not quantitative.
All
These
right.
qualitative things can be seen higher ups.
Okay.
It's a meritocracy, to answer your question.
Okay, and so how do you reward people who innovate?
How do I reward people that innovate? It depends on the innovation. I'm an eco-fascist.
Well, guys,
I believe in continued economic and technological advancement. I think it reduces humans to just being cogs in a machine, close to nature. But some of sorts would probably be the best version of meritocracy, where it's all artisan labor. Necessities like the war industry, because even if it's a dream where the whole world magically turns Anprem, you still have to defend yourself.
Okay,
guys.
I see. Yes, T.
So for simplicity's sake, the idea I was proposing was essentially monopoly is government. Like government is a corporation of sorts. And we see modern corporations are very innovative and are very, for example, if you look at the K-pop industry, I think there's only like one or two corporations that run the entire industry and that own all the bands or groups or whatever. If we look at the Samsung, right, they're a corporation and they're very innovative and very and what I claimed was basically the sovereign territory is run like a corporation, right? You have branches of institutions that provide services, and a lot of people say, "Oh, what about how are you going to innovate? How are you going to be creative and this and the other?" Look at modern day corporations like Samsung, right? They have how many branches? Samsung is a corporation, right? And it does everything. It builds ships, it builds cars, it builds air conditioners to TVs to phones to technologies and research in a completely other fields. And they're very innovative. And I'm just saying, imagine that on a national scale where it's one corporation that is. And can you imagine the efficiency of that?
Usually they can't.
Military devices. They're crazy.
Yeah, they're.
But the problem I see with what you said is that usually when companies get too big, they actually become less efficient, and then the price of their products go up.
But I'm saying if we do this on a national scale,
Are you talking about?
You're right. It depends on the leadership. That's why. No. That's why bureaucracy should be non-existent. I'm an autocrat. So when you have a system where there's no bureaucracy, there's no middleman, there's no like octopus, it's all centralized, I see it working out.
Right, yeah, I can see that. Like, I don't necessarily agree with running a country like a business. If your goal is efficiency, then I can see it working.
No, but the thing is, not only is power maximized, efficiency and mobilization of your assets and your resources and territory is it's unbelievable. I think in the current system, you just can't match it. You really can't.
Well, from your previous example, it seems like you also said that private businesses are going to be allowed to exist, but whatever they see as excessive profit will be taken and given to the government.
No, I misspoke.
It's more so like some
When I
sort
meant
of.
private business is my opinion. So they technically will be workers of the government. Everyone will be workers of the government, but they will look, feel, and act like free people. Like, oh,
So
here's my
it's kind of
business.
like a franchise where you technically are the owner of your own, like McDonald's
No,
location.
it's not that.
And
What technically,
work for the
exactly, kind of like that. It's more like I'm gonna use the K-pop thing. So in Korea, you're a good singer, right? You're a good dancer. You go to like a what's it called? The corporation that runs all the media in Korea. You sign a contract, and then they like facilitate all of all of your band or whatever. You get what I'm saying? So
company. Yeah.
if you are an entrepreneur in this hypothetical state, and you go to the state and you say, "Hey, I want my business," the business will just create your franchise. You understand? Or if it's
Yeah,
good
so
enough,
it's
right? If
just
your
kind
pitch
of
is good
some
enough.
sort of symbolic level where in the end it's owned by the state, but it's in
And that was
name.
my point. That these K-pop stars they sign contracts, and in these contracts, essentially they're technically owned by the corporation now. And I'm saying if these people will technically work for the state, right? But
All right,
you
yeah,
get
I
what I'm
see it
saying?
now. I see it now.
So you'll be space for. Yeah, I think it's very efficient, and I know people monopolies have a rap for being how do you say inefficient,
Mhm.
but I don't see this going
Well, I
inefficient
would
because
say
those
that it's
monopolies they're different
private
circumstances.
monopolies have a thing for being inefficient.
Well, Zarathustra, you've been quiet this whole time. What do
So
you
I'm gonna
think
go.
about this of these
Wait,
ideas?
Bravos, can we move on to the next question? We're beating this one to death.
I'm
Okay,
gonna go, guys.
sure, why not? Okay, thank you for coming,
Goodbye, bye,
T. We'll see you
See
around.
you around.
Okay.
Bye.
So,
I don't think I ever want to read the words "the society responsible for its own members" ever again.
okay, let's go to 7. If you could choose your gender, ethnicity, and nationality, what combination would you pick?
Transgender black woman in inner city Los Angeles.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say Zimbabwe.
Oh no. On a serious note, though, I'd probably choose just a male Spaniard.
And I think I'm gonna also add in there, just slip it in at the last moment. What time period?
Ooh, male Spaniard, 1920s.
Oh, what was going on there then?
Prelude to the Spanish Civil War.
Ah, I see. So you want to get your hands dirty, huh?
Fight for my land of, or my ancestral homeland.
Okay. Just curious, what
yeah,
percent
Spanish.
Spaniard are you? Like Iberian, right?
Basically half.
Half. Okay. I'm a quarter. And the rest is like Northwestern European, pretty much like
Yeah,
Scandinavian.
Germanic, and whatever Anglo lives in the good old South.
Yeah. Well,
I got some Mediterranean phenotypes though. I got the olive.
Oh, right.
Dark hair.
You know, if I had to pick, I probably would choose to be a. I like being a man. I think being a man is pretty awesome. So I'm gonna stick with being a man.
Men can do no fap, women can't.
Yeah. Okay. Man, I would probably want to be mix of Ashkenazi and probably like German. So I'm
A Jewish plutocrat of the Weimar era.
no, and I would want to be like 100 years into the future.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I don't think that they will exist in 100 years.
I'll be the only one.
To draw a quote from Jordan Peterson, I'm still not convinced that Jews even exist.
Oh, really? I wonder how he said that.
No, it's a meme that was going around. I'm not sure if you've seen it.
Oh, I would like to hear him say that, like on video.
Oh yeah, I would too.
The Jews don't exist?
It sounds like something.
It does
For
sound
the
like
Foster.
something.
Kermit the Frog voice. I'm
Yeah.
still not convinced that the Jews even exist.
Yeah.
Marxist.
Speaking of which, like I was watching an old recording the other day, and I cringed when some boomer said, "Yeah, Jews are Jewish is just a religion." And he was like, "If Jews are a race, then that means that Arabs are Jews as well because they're Semites."
I would say that the Semite is the race, which includes Arabs and Jews, because Ashkenazim Jews do cluster as being. They do cluster closely with other Jews, unless they're like they've basically bred out all of their Ashkenazi and they're full blood German with the Jewish mindset. There, if that's the thing, but like
I have heard some people actually say that Jews don't exist as a race, as far as like European. If you look at the European way of things, because I think it's very possible that because some people when they say that they're Jewish, I look at them and I don't see it at all. I just don't see it.
Well, it's a lot of the Ashkenazis have completely just bred out whatever of.
Yeah.
And so I would say that some sort of thing like with the Native Americans in the U.S. where it was kill the Indian, save the man. That with them, if they would fall under Nuremberg laws as being white, then yeah, they're ethnically and racially Jewish. I wouldn't say that Jew itself is a race. I would say that it falls within a subset of the Semitic race.
Okay, I think that's fair enough.
Like
being a Jew is a spiritual state.
Too. Race is also a spiritual state. Some Julius
based.
It's like here's the thing: if you're white but you aren't spiritually Aryan, you're not white. You're a liberal.
You're a liberal. Yeah.
To quote a dude from another server, if you can see yourself living anything older than 25, you're a liberal.
Well, I mean that's pretty high standard. Yeah. Okay. Would anybody else
question, like? Though, I would say that if any male said that they would, if they could choose, they would rather be a female. I would be inclined to call you a masochist and a homosexual.
I mean, I couldn't imagine it either. Think
about it. If you chose. Especially if you chose a time period in the past, you as a dude are okay with another dude smacking your cheeks and cooking his dinner. That is like, you must be a transsexual.
I really wish we had more liberals in here to come on VC nights.
Yeah.
Soon, Bravo, soon.
Oh, sorry, you were saying, I want to say something, Sven?
Yeah, two things. The ironic thing is most men become women by idolizing females, so they don't really see it coming until it's too late and they reincarnate as a fucking female. And secondly, to answer the question of what type of race you'd want to be, I would like to be a Central American in the year 1300 in Central Mexico.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's when the Aztecs were around.
That would be pretty interesting.
That'd be pretty fun.
Would you make yourself a priest?
Maybe I'll probably just be a warrior, bro.
Yeah, warrior.
Yeah.
I may be a priest. It depends. It's hard to choose. That'd be the one civilization where I wouldn't want to know if I'd want to be a priest.
I'd say as long as you're not just a farmer, yeah, you're good. Like if you're a priest-based human sacrifice, if you're a warrior, if you're a woman.
Yeah, especially back then, it's much easier to be a warrior. You just gotta have the mindset. I think a lot of us have the mindset. We're just constrained by our environments.
Yeah. Spiritual kshatriyas in a society controlled by shudras.
You know, 100 years from now, I would like there to be like maybe like an alien invasion, and I have to be like this general commander, German Ashkenazi. Mix
just the Jews like leading the revolt against the aliens.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have probe chambers.
Probe chambers.
You know, Posidus.
You broke up for me.
Posidus is this fourth international Trotskyist that advocated for omnicide and warfare to kill all undesirable humans, and only the communists would survive in their bunkers. And as they resurface after the radioactivity dies down, aliens will come to Earth and help the survivors build worldwide communism.
Wow. I don't even understand that thinking, because even if you did have like a nuclear holocaust, so to speak, people in their bunkers, I think they've determined that they wouldn't even survive that long. Probably like a couple of months and that's it.
That's gay.
Yeah, like the bunkers are useless. Yeah, it sucks.
There goes all my luck. I don't want Omnicide anymore. I'm no longer a positist.
There we go. Physician, I've cured him.
Let's move on to number 8.
Yeah, let's. To what degree should humans prevent the extinction of animals? I think it depends on how important the animal is for the ecosystem.
I would say that aside from mosquitoes, humans should not drive any animal to extinction.
But don't mosquitoes like provide like an abundant food source for other animals?
It's really debatable.
Hmm.
Are one of the very few insects that we could actually probably eradicate with very little impact.
Oh, Christian the Rich says no,
thing,
mosquitoes must die.
Yeah, mosquitoes got to go. Like,
mosquitoes are pretty terrible.
Like, mosquitoes exist in the numbers that they do, humans, because when we move into an area it's like giving an obese family a buffet.
You broke up for me.
Moving humans into a mosquito area is like giving an obese family a ticket to a all-you-can-eat buffet.
Oh, yeah. I remember when I was younger, I would play outside, and I just moved to Georgia, and there were like these huge trees, and I was just running through them, and then all of a sudden, this big, huge freaking mosquito comes out of nowhere and like slams into my arm, and its nozzle or its mouth, whatever you want to call it, its big straw-like mouth is just stuck on my arm. Robuscus, yeah. It was just stuck on my arm. I mean, to this day, I don't even understand how that happened, because I'm so used to like little mosquitoes, small ones, but this one, it was one of those very large mosquitoes.
It gave you the Zika virus.
I don't know what happened, but the thing just flew like an attack helicopter and just landed on me.
Don't throw that term around so sparingly. That might have been its gender.
Probably. But that was crazy. I still remember like picking it out of my arm. Maybe it's just my childhood memories kind of like obscuring it or like sensationalizing it, but that was crazy. I never forgot that. Because the mosquitoes usually like kind of sneaky, They'll buzz around you and they'll wait for a good purchase point, and then they'll drive their robuscus into you. Yeah, exactly. But this one just like flew at me like a dart. It was like out of like Bug's Life. He starts using the mosquitoes like that grasshopper. It was just like that. Yeah, exactly. But
So, aside from mosquitoes, though,
yeah,
I have a very deep appreciation for all natural beings. Really don't like. Only read some works of Savitri Devi. Recently, listened to the audiobook of Pesto.
And what do they have to say?
And it's kind of just reinforced my love of nature and my really radical take on environmentalism.
That'll do it.
In this environmental science class that now I just recognize how intricate and nature is, and all these natural systems that just seem to fit together like puzzle pieces. If you can study all of this stuff and walk away saying that there's some divine spark in atheist. You're a libtard at that point. You're unsaleable.
Yeah, I mean,
it all just fits in so perfectly.
I think to some degree there is an intuitiveness that there has to be something divine. At least to me. I can't say it for everybody, but it doesn't make sense to me how somebody couldn't look at everything and not see
I forgot the scientist's name. It was an early pioneer, I think, and like an agnostic atheist or something. But through studying the human eye, he became a firm theist because he said there's no way that something this intricate could exist where if you disrupt one muscle fiber, some collapses. The human eye.
I've heard some people say that his claim that if you do that, it wouldn't happen. Like,
he was obviously it was obviously some form of a hyperbole. It's not just
some
thing, but mess up one thing. It's not that the eye stops working, but your eye stops functioning properly. Like lazy eye. That's a huge issue. That's just a couple of muscle fibers or just one thing being wrong.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
biological systems are so intricate. DNA is such a miracle molecule. It's a miracle that it even exists. You know, calling back to the actual question, any form of life has inherent meaning and inherent beauty to it.
Yeah.
Because in it, I see reflected the absolute divinity of all that exists.
I would say that I will always put humans above animals. And so if human interests conflict with animal interests, I would have to side with humans on that point. But I don't see it as...
with animals on it, in all honesty. I'm an anti-humanist. Humans above animals. Because, like, have a choice to be noble or to be vicious. They just are. Animal fulfilling its role in its species is infinitely more noble than the noblest of humans with all of their faults. The mentality of anthropocentrism is kind of like saving the worst because they're human to the of noble animals.
Well, I think what I could say is that they're innocent, but I wouldn't say that they're capable of being noble. I think somebody who has the ability to choose to be noble or not to be noble, and then chooses the straight and narrow path, is far more a dignified creature than that of some animal that does not have that choice. Something that's truly
like
innocent.
The noblest of humans. They like that. I would have difficulty choosing an animal in that case. But when it comes to just, your average person, like percent that don't do anything in a revolution, I'd sell them out for animals in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
the majority of people have very little worth.
So, but what about all of humanity that has this great potential to nobility?
I don't believe in humanity as...
Well, let's not say humanity. Let's say a particular group of humanity. Say a community, your own community. If a community of noble people.
Can you hear me?
You're breaking up a lot. So, did you say something? I couldn't hear you. Let's see. Let me turn up the... Okay. Can you try talking now? Stirred. Stern, can you hear me? Okay, well, until Stern comes back, it seems like we don't have any participants, except for maybe Christian. So we're going to end debate night here. We got to question number 8. The recording has been going on for some time, and I think this has been a good debate night. Of course, we'll try to get Stern back, but thank you for watching, and like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And y'all have a lovely day or good night wherever you are in the world.